Before there was a United States, before there were any states at all, there was the land. A vast, sprawling continent of towering forests, sun-scorched deserts and winding rivers that whispered stories to the sky. And on this land lived people. We believe they first arrived thousands of years ago, perhaps crossing a land bridge that once connected Asia to Alaska. These were the first peoples, the original pioneers of this immense territory. They were not one people, but many, a rich tapestry of cultures and societies. They were hunters, farmers, artists, astronomers. Their legacy is the very foundation upon which everything else is built. Then from across the vast expanse of the Atlantic Ocean came new ships with different sails. It was the late 15th century, a time of great curiosity and ambition in Europe. Driven by a thirst for new trade routes to Asia, for gold, and for glory, explorers set out into the unknown. A Genoese sailor named Christopher Columbus, sailing under the Spanish flag, made landfall in 1492 on an island in the Caribbean. He believed he had reached the East Indies, but he had stumbled upon something else entirely. A new world, teeming with peoples and civilizations completely unknown to Europe. This moment was not a discovery, but a collision. Following Columbus, waves of European explorers and settlers began to arrive. The Spanish pushed into the south and west, the French ventured into the north, and the English began to establish colonies along the Atlantic coast. In 1607, they founded Jamestown, in what is now Virginia, a fragile foothold that barely survived its early years. 13 years later, in 1620, the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth Rock, signing the Mayflower Compact. This era saw the beginning of a great exchange, of plants, animals, technologies, and diseases. For the Native American peoples, this arrival was a cataclysm. As the 13 English colonies grew and prospered, a new identity began to form. Virginians, New Yorkers, Pennsylvanians, Americans. They cherished ideals of liberty and self-governance, nurtured in town meetings and colonial assemblies. A quiet hum of discontent began to grow as the British Crown tightened control. Britain imposed new taxes to pay debts: sugar, paper, tea, no taxation without representation. In Boston, colonists dumped chests of British tea. April 1775, Lexington Village Green. A shot was fired. The shot heard round the world. A revolution began. Led by George Washington, whose leadership held the Continental Army through bitter winters and defeats. A crucible forging a new nation. July 4, 1776, Philadelphia. The Second Continental Congress adopted the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. After securing its independence, the young United States was a nation filled with boundless energy and a powerful sense of destiny. With the signing of the Constitution, a revolutionary blueprint of the people, by the people, for the people. Now it looked westward across the Appalachian Mountains to the Pacific. This was the era of manifest destiny, the belief that the nation was divinely ordained to expand. It fueled one of the greatest migrations in human history. Pioneers in covered wagons, explorers like Lewis and Clark, settlers hungry for land faced incredible hardships. The Louisiana Purchase in 1803 doubled the size of the country overnight. The nation grew at a breathtaking pace. Texas, California, the entire Southwest. Each new territory added another star to the flag. But this expansion came at a terrible cost. The U.S. government pursued policies of forced removal, most infamously, the Trail of Tears. The story of westward expansion is a story of courage and opportunity, but also conquest and loss. As the nation expanded, a deep and dangerous fault line was widening within it: the institution of slavery. The simmering conflict over slavery finally boiled over into a national catastrophe. By 1860, the country was irreconcilably divided. When Abraham Lincoln was elected, the southern states saw it as a direct threat, and one by one they seceded. In April 1861, Confederate forces fired on Fort Sumter and the Civil War began. Battles with names like Antietam, Gettysburg, Shiloh saw casualties on a scale never before imagined. It became the bloodiest and most wrenching conflict in American history. President Lincoln steered the Union through its darkest hours. In 1863, he issued the Emancipation Proclamation declaring enslaved people in rebellious states to be thenceforward and forever free. After 4 long years, Union armies prevailed. The Confederacy surrendered in April 1865. The 13th Amendment abolished slavery. But the cost was immense. More than 620,000 soldiers had perished. In the decades following the Civil War, America underwent a staggering transformation. This was the Gilded Age, an era of explosive industrial growth. Railroads stitched the continent together, creating a single national market. Great cities like New York, Chicago, and Pittsburgh swelled with factories and skyscrapers. Inventors like Thomas Edison harnessed electricity to light up the world. Industrialists like Andrew Carnegie built empires of steel. A great wave of immigration arrived at Ellis Island. Italians, Poles, Russians, Jews, and immigrants from Asia. They came seeking work in factories and mines, but often faced harsh conditions and low wages. In 1917, the United States entered World War I. American soldiers helped tip the balance in Europe. In World War II, the nation mobilized. Factories produced planes, tanks, and ships at an astonishing rate. The war ended with the United States as the most powerful nation on Earth. But it also ushered in the atomic age and a new era of global tension. The end of World War II did not bring lasting peace. Instead, it marked the beginning of the Cold War, a decades-long ideological struggle between the United States and the Soviet Union, not fought directly, but through proxy wars, Korea, Vietnam, but also the space race, Neil Armstrong on the moon in 1969. At home, the civil rights movement reshaped American society led by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Nonviolent protests, marches, sit-ins, leading to landmark legislation like the Civil Rights Act of 1964. As the Cold War thawed and the Soviet Union collapsed, a new revolution began, the digital revolution. Personal computers, the internet, mobile technology transformed everyday life. Small garages birthed companies that connected the world in ways once the stuff of science fiction. But this age also brought new questions about privacy, community, and truth. Today the nation faces political division, economic inequality, and a changing climate.